Thank you for tuning in to the Into the Classroom series produced by Mental Health California, sponsored by Blue Shield of California's Blue Sky Initiative.
Welcome to Into the Classroom, which is a student mental health awareness multimedia series produced by Mental Health California. I'm your host, Conrad Crump, also known as Coach Crump, and today's topic is on building mental resilience and empowering students to overcome challenges and thrive. Now, building mental resilience is essential for all students, especially those facing additional stressors such as racial stress, trauma, and discrimination. From academic pressure to family situations to social expectations, the challenges can be overwhelming. Today, we'll talk with students to help them navigate adversity, equipping them with tools and strategies to build a mentally resilient future. We'll also discuss how youth, their schools, their families, and their communities can create supportive environments that foster resilience and well-being. Today, we are joined by an amazing clinician named Ali Garza. Now, Ali is a licensed clinical social worker on faculty with the Department of Psychiatry at the University of Colorado. She has expertise in youth suicide prevention, crisis intervention, supporting parents and families, and treating OCD and anxiety-related disorders. Welcome, Ali. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Thanks for having me again.
Yes, indeed. I'd also like to introduce some of our youth guests who will be joining us today. First up, we have Keyshawn Williams, who is a recent graduate of Sacramento State University. Hey, what's up, Keyshawn?
How you doing, Coach? What's good?
Hey, I'm doing
Good to
great.
see you.
Good to have you. Good to see you too. And we're also joined by Joel Suazo from Los Angeles City College. How's it going, Joel?
I'm doing great. How you guys doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. And last but certainly not least, I'd like to welcome our high schooler to the stage, Lucy Lebec from El Cerrito High School. What's up, Lucy?
Thank you so much for having me again.
Yes, indeed. Well, now that we're all here, I'd like to jump in, but before I do, I'd like to ask our clinician, Ali, if she can provide some insight into building mental resilience and how youth can rely on it during tough times.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the term resilience can be so broad and subjective. But when I think about it, I think about feeling confident, right? Not necessarily that everything's going to be easy, but having confidence in yourself and being able to navigate stressors or unpredictable situations. I think that's one piece is confidence in self. But also, I think resilience, especially in adolescence and going into young adulthood, is also feeling confident that the other people in your life have your back as well. Confidence that people will show up for you, that they'll support you, and that they'll love you unconditionally, and kind of really fostering that sense of belonging, which can kind of go hand in hand with identity as well. There's a wide variety of ways, and I think like person by person, that's going to look different of how we foster resiliency. But that's kind of the key things that come to mind as far as how can we strengthen these areas, regardless of who the youth is, and what would be most effective for them.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. That is a very broad word, resilience, so it means so many different things to so many different people. But we'll get into that a little bit later. But let me ask some of our young folks here, just by a show of hands, how many of you are working on building up your mental resilience? I'll raise my hand too, because it's a good thing to do so, and really proud that all of you are working towards that. And clearly, you're not alone. So let's go ahead and get into our conversation with our slide presentation on building mental resilience and empowering students to overcome challenges and thrive. So, when we talk about resilience, right, we want to talk about a resilient mindset. Mental resilience refers to the ability to adapt, bounce back, and maintain well being in the face of hard times, in the face of stress or setbacks. It also involves developing coping strategies, fostering a positive mindset, and building a support system to navigate challenges effectively. Let's go ahead and move on to our next slide. Oh, those stressful factors. They're going to come and they're going to go. And we know that students face a range of stressors, including academic demands, extracurricular activities, familial pressures, social pressures, as well as the uncertainty of the future. And for youth of color and marginalized students, racial stress, trauma, and discrimination can exacerbate these challenges. It is important to acknowledge and validate their experiences, providing them with culturally resistant strategies to cope with these unique stressors. Moving on, when we talk about behavioral health facts, let's go ahead and look at some statistics. So according to the National Alliance on Mental Illness, also known as NAMI, approximately 1 in every 5 youth aged 13 through 18 experience a severe mental disorder at some point during their life. Building mental resilience can help reduce the risk and impact of mental health issues. And as we continue on, the American Psychological Association, or the APA, has reported that college students often face high levels of stress, with over 41% experiencing anxiety and over 36% experiencing depression. Developing these resilient skills can certainly enhance their ability to cope with academic pressure and life transitions. So let me pause here and talk to some of our young folks. And I just wanted to ask, like, when it comes to the academic pressure or social pressure and things of that nature, what types of pressure are you experiencing? So I'll go with you first, Keyshawn. Can you talk to us about what some of that academic pressure might look like?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like obviously a common thing in college is, or any schooling, is managing your academics with your social life and maybe with your outside factors. So I know a lot of people that feel a lot of anxiety just when a test is coming up. Maybe they know the material, they've studied it, but it's just the pure fact of it being a test and having to show those skills and thinking, okay, man, I have one midterm, I have one final, and that's it. That's my grade. If I mess this up, then I messed up all the work that I've done in class. So they build a lot of anxiety from that in that regard. Same with any social pressure as well. You know, if you're feeling out of place from your friends or out of place from the class, that can add to it as well. And I can definitely relate to that. I've experienced a lot of anxiety and I know what that feels like, and it doesn't feel good.
Wow. Yeah. No, thanks a lot for that insight, Keyshawn. How about you, Lucy? As a high school student, what types of pressures or demands or things cause stress for you?
Definitely. So I have my schooling. I feel stress around it, but I feel like I have my school life much more together than I have my social life. I can totally relate to what Keyshawn's saying about the social life and not being able to like fit in, and that being a big stressor, and like having people come and go in my life. That I feel like is my biggest stressor, and also impacts how I do in school. So it kind of is like a circle. It's like, oh, this happened. Well, now my school's being affected, and then like my school being affected doesn't make me feel good at all. So then I feel bad about the fact that my school is affected, and then it's just like a circle forever.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And I'm going to ask you, Joel, a little bit of a different question. So they kind of talked about some of the things that bring them stress and heighten that level of stress for them. What are some ways that they can cope, or other students might be able to cope with some of those academic pressures and social pressures and just life transitions?
Yeah, so I think that, having the mindset of like you are able to get through something, whether it's a challenge or not understanding the context with the test or, overall the subject in school. And also knowing that, sometimes you have ups, sometimes you have downs, sometimes you get stressed with school and life and, work balance and all that. So I just think that, having that good mindset and knowing that you'll be able to get through it and that it's just a challenge for the meantime, it won't last forever.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks a lot for that. That's some great insight. Definitely having that mindset and developing those resilient skills can really enhance your ability to kind of cope with some of those things that you're dealing with. So definitely appreciate, you giving that insight on that, Joel. Now let's go ahead and move on to our next slide. Because when we talk about building this resilience, we know it is vitally important to build mental resilience in youth of color. Now, it's also important to recognize the impact of racial stress and discrimination on mental health. Young people can validate their experiences and seek support from culturally competent professionals who understand the unique challenges faced by youth of color. Now, let's go ahead and move on to our next slide. Now, we will definitely want to celebrate our culture and our heritage and our identity, engaging in activities that can promote cultural pride, such as connecting with community-based organizations or participating in cultural events, and seeking out role models who inspire resilience. All of this can help to build your own mental resilience as well. And let's go ahead and move on. Now, what do schools have to do with cultivating resilience, one might ask? Well, schools can actually create safe and inclusive spaces where students can express themselves, where they can share their own experiences and find support. And this can be achieved through workshops, support groups, student organizations, cultural groups, or dedicated counseling services, all of which will help to build that resilience, to find that identity, to find your people, so to speak, and, understand that you're not alone. And that's something we want to make sure we share with all of our young folks, is that you're definitely not alone. Now let's go ahead and move on to our next slide. Now, the importance of nutrition and mental resilience. Now, I can't stress this enough. It is vitally important for young folks to consume a healthy diet. That includes your fruits and vegetables, whole grains, lean proteins, and healthy fats. Now, I'm not trying to be a doctor here, but we do have a clinician on the call, and I'd like to chime over to you a little bit, Ali, and ask how these foods can help us build that mental resilience.
Yeah, I'm certainly not an MD myself, but I think just generally speaking, it's like setting the stage for ourselves, giving ourselves the best shot to be able to practice resiliency or go into situations as like the best version of ourselves. I think with nutrition, that can be a huge piece of that, right? I think if you are going into a situation that you know is going to be extremely stressful and you've got a couple hours of sleep and one latte in your system and that's it, you're probably going to be way less likely to practice that resiliency or to have that confidence going through the situation, rather than if you've really been conscious about the full picture of your self-care and just tending to those basic needs first. And I think going back to the basics can go a long way in anyone's mental health journey. So.
Certainly. I couldn't agree with you more. Going back to the basics and, going back to those foods, going back to those basics actually can help provide those nutrients, for your brain to function and just to help your mood and whatnot. Also, in addition to that, hydration, right? Drinking enough water. Being dehydrated can certainly impact you, the way you feel, just the way your body can move and go back and forth. So, dehydration can certainly have a huge effect on your mood and just completely impact your day-to-day life. So students should definitely drink an adequate amount of water thoroughly throughout the day. And remember that sugar can also be something that can harm you as well. Excessive consumption of sugar as well as caffeine, as Ali mentioned with those lattes, that can also lead to energy crashes. It can lead to mood swings. It can lead to a number of different things that can really harm you and really kind of set you off track. So Staying hydrated, eating a balanced and healthy diet can certainly help you as you navigate your wellness and your mental health journey. Also, I want to also add that make sure if you are consuming sugar or whatever the case may be, that you're doing it in moderation. An overconsumption of that thing can really just set you on a bad path in terms of your physical health as well as your mental health. So just something to keep in mind. Now let's go ahead and move on to our next slide. So when we talk about de-stressing for mental resilience, that includes engaging in regular exercise. And when you engage in exercise, it releases endorphins or mood boosters, which help to reduce your stress. And it also improves your overall well-being. Now, students should try to find physical activities that they enjoy, such as dancing, yoga, or other team sports. Also, learning mindfulness techniques, such as deep breathing, relaxation, and guided meditations, all of which can be beneficial as well. All of these practices can help to reduce your stress, help to improve your focus, and promote your emotional well-being. So I want to ask some of our youth here today, when it comes to de-stressing and building your mental resilience, because I saw you all raise your hand and said that you build your mental resilience. So what are some of the things that you do to de-stress or to build that mental resilience? And I'll go ahead and ask you first, Lucy.
I like going to the HIIT gym. I like lifting weights and running. It's really calming, but I think that's something that helps me build mental resilience and helps me work through my issues is writing music. I like to write stuff that is about my emotions, and it helps me really think about what I'm feeling and work through what I'm feeling. And I think it's a really great coping mechanism.
Yeah, it's certainly tapping into that creative outlet and having the ability to write out, I think is certainly a benefit as well. So thanks for sharing that, Lucy. How about you, Joel? Ways that you de-stress or build up your mental resilience?
Yeah, for me, to de-stress, I like to either, listen to music, go home, lay down, just definitely relax, try to limit the stress that I put on my body. And also just think about what's going on right now. I know a lot of times we think about the future or think about the past or think about what we have to do tomorrow or the assignment that's coming up. I try to practice, so to speak, that resilience and just thinking about the time as of right now. What am I doing right now? What can I control? If my mood is down, I could either get up, I could read a book, or I could go and exercise. So.
Oh, that's very good. Very good. Exercise, reading, relaxation, all key components to just building yourself up and fortifying your mental. So certainly appreciate you sharing those tips. All right. How about you, Keyshawn? What are some ways that you de-stress or build up your mental resilience?
I would just echo everything that Lucy and Joel said. I'd say being physical. I'd say creating, writing things down, journaling, eating right, like you guys said in previous slides, making sure your nutrition is right. And I like to tell people, look, like these things are not going to solve your problems for you. Like if your friends are mean, meditating isn't going to make your friends stop being mean. But what it's going to do is you're going to build this mental resilience, and it's going to elevate your mood. It's going to elevate your calmness and your ability to, when you get in stressful situations, to sort of calm down and have the right energy and the right mood in order to pick the right thing to do. So that's what it's about. It's not about, hey, okay, now I'm working out 4 days a week and bam, my depression's gone. Like that's not what it's about. It's about building this mental resilience so you can attack your problems the right way. And I felt like it's really helped me out.
Wow. Thanks for that, man. We appreciate you sharing. Certainly some key gems and some nuggets right there in terms of that exercise, especially the awareness of knowing that it's not going to change certain situations, but just going to help build you up and make you stronger to deal with them. So certainly good stuff. Now let's go ahead and move on to our next slide, because we want to talk about other types of solutions and other tips. And some of those include clinical and holistic healing solutions, right? So therapy is one of them. And therapy can provide a safe space for students to explore their emotions and develop coping strategies. And holistic practices such as art therapy, music therapy, kind of like writing music, as well as other nature-based activities, can also provide natural healing. These approaches can help students express themselves and find inner strength. And I wanted to kind of pivot to Ali, our clinician here, and ask, when it comes to holistic as well as clinical solutions, can you talk to us about the significance of them? And, therapy, for instance, I have a sweatshirt that says "Go to therapy," which is a message not only to myself, but also a message to others who may look at it a certain way or might have stigma about it, just to kind of reduce the stigma. So can you talk to us a little bit about the significance and the importance of engaging in these types of solutions?
Yeah, absolutely. I think with therapy, there is so much stigma around it. And that's also why I really appreciate Keyshawn's point about self-care, that's like means of setting the stage, giving yourself the best shot, right? To show up as the best version of yourself. I think where sometimes mental health stigma is amplified or exacerbated is when the message is you can self-care your way out of a mental health disorder. And that is really doing a disservice to the field and to patients who need evidence-based care. And there's a need for evidence-based care. That's why it's researched and highly, they've done a lot of work to develop what is effective. And I would say that not everyone who has mental health has a mental health disorder. There's a difference, right? And it's based on impairment. And so not everyone needs evidence-based therapy. And there's lots of opportunities to do other types of more holistic approaches. And that's fantastic. And I'm a huge supporter of when someone, for example, one of my patients is doing CBT therapy or ERP, of how can we weave in these other areas of life, areas that are important to you, a part of your identity, your culture, things that, that get you back into life again. And so if that's nature or music therapy, I love using those as supplementary interventions for patients.
Wow, very, very good. Thanks a lot for that. And, as I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about it, I'm looking at our slide and there's a young person playing the guitar. And it just reminds me of how music is such a wonderful way to relax, to calm oneself, as well as if you're able to create it, right? Whether you make beats or whether you write, spoken word across music, or you rap or you sing or you play an instrument. All of these types of creative outlets can help you with your mental, and it also brings you joy. It's something that can certainly elevate your mood and just provide you with another outlet to explore as you go on your wellness journey. So definitely appreciate that, Ali, and, adding that tidbit to the conversation as well. So let's go ahead and move on to our next slide, because we want to talk about some tips for building mental resilience. And we've already kind of talked about this a little bit, and we talked about building mental resilience, and we know that students can learn to embrace challenges as opportunities for growth. Also understanding that by viewing setbacks as learning experiences, we understand that students are able to look at their situations that they've been through and grow through them, believing in their abilities to overcome obstacles, looking back at, their accomplishments, looking back at what they've gone through and what they've been through, and understanding that they're still here, which in and of itself is a type of resilience. Additionally, students can seek support from friends. They can seek support from mentors as well as counselors. Having a strong support system can certainly provide a sense of belonging and can also help students navigate those difficult times. And so I want to ask some of our students here today, when it comes to your campus, what might a student be able to, or where might a student be able to find some support on their campus to kind of help build them up if they're feeling low? And I'll ask Keyshawn first.
I would say definitely I bring up peer counseling a lot, and I bring out different programs that I know that Sac State has. So there's these things where you could go to quiet places and you could just meditate if you're feeling tired, or you could even take a nap or something if you don't have any other quiet place to be. So that can sort of help out your energy levels. There's a big fitness center that is complementary with your um, education. So you can go there, you can work out whenever you feel like you need to do that. Um, I would also say talk to your professors too, because they know what it's like to be students. They had to get their PhDs, so they've been students for a long time. So they know what it feels like, and they know what you're going through. So I've learned a lot from my professors about how to study, about just how to live life, really. So I feel like those are always great resources.
Nice, nice. Thanks for those resources and those tips. How about you, Joel? If I were starting at Los Angeles City College in the fall, what might I want to look for or, reach out in terms of resources and support?
Yeah, you can definitely talk to like the counselors. They're very helpful, especially with, getting everything sorted, what classes you need to take, what requirements you need to either go to the what is it called? For yeah, so for your classes, overall just developing that support system. Like Keyshawn said, it took the words right out of my mouth. Either talking to a counselor or the professor or someone on campus that you feel comfortable with. You can talk to them about your feelings, and overall just seeking that support so they can help you.
Nice. Thanks a lot for that, Joel. No, totally, want to make sure that you're reaching out to folks. Now, I want to ask you, Lucy, now you're in high school, what types of resources are available for someone who's at El Cerrito High School?
So we are very lucky because we have the James Morehouse Project, which is basically a segment of our campus that has a mental health center where it has quiet rooms, counselors, like so many social workers. They even have their own health clinic. And it's just a nice place for anyone who is feeling anxious, stressed, needs somewhere to like chill out. They also have drop-in services if anyone needs to drop in and talk to a counselor that day. And they have weekly therapy. So you can sign up and every Monday during second block, you can go to therapy. And it's great, but we don't have any other resources like a college does with the free classes or anything. But yeah, that's what we have.
No, that's really cool. I mean, they have something because not all high schools are the same. And just last year we did an analysis on different schools across California, and many of the schools offered very minimal resources on their school's website, whereas other schools were much more robust. They had much more resources for students. So something for schools to definitely, make sure that they're providing something. I mean, even if there is information on their website, whereas even if the school may not have a specific resource, at least they can direct students and families to resources that might be available to them. So certainly something to think about. So let's move on to our next slide because there's some other tips as well, and we want to talk about them. And when we talk about these other tips, they include a number of different things like setting achievable goals and breaking those huge goals into smaller chunks. You break it down into smaller chunks and you knock them off one by one. My mom, she used to tell me, don't worry about graduating right now, son. Just chip away at it. Just chip away at it. Chip away at it. And I began to do that in my own way of taking maybe a reduced course load where I was overwhelming myself by taking too many classes. And I was like, you know what? Let me just take my time with this. And I found that by doing that, I was able to achieve my goals, and make it much more manageable. And also it felt good. It built that confidence up when you're knocking stuff off that list. It feels like you're accomplished and it kind of reduces those feelings of failure. Another way that you can do, and I think Joel talked about this earlier, was reframing your thoughts. Try to have that positive mindset. That's certainly a way to kind of build up, your resilience and just kind of get you on a positive track. Challenge your own negative talk and focus on your strengths, focus on your abilities, focus on your accomplishments. Those are certainly things that you can, pour into yourself, just to kind of build up that mental resilience. So, with that, you all have heard a number of different tips, a number of different strategies. You've heard a number of different things from our young folks. And, at this time, I really just want to thank each and every one of you for bringing just your A game today. I thank you, Keyshawn, just for your words and your insight. Thank you, Joel, for your contribution. And thank you, Lucy, for representing El Cerrito. I appreciate that. And also, I want to give a huge shout out and a huge thank you to Allie, our clinician, for providing us with that clinical analysis, as always. Many thanks to you all. I appreciate you. And also, I'd like to thank you, our audience, for joining Into the Classroom, which is a production of Mental Health California. Please be sure to visit us at mentalhealthca.org. And if you'd like to access health and mental wellness topics for boys and men of color, please visit our signature initiative at brotherbewell.com. And be sure to subscribe to our blog while you're there. And last but not least, I want to give a huge thank you to our sponsor, Blue Shield of California's Blue Sky Initiative, which promotes access to mental health support. You can learn all about their program at bluesky.blueshieldca.com. With that, I'm your host, Conrad Crump, aka Coach Crump, and until next time, take good care of yourself.